conversation was at the Arboretum, so that was awesome. So good to see everybody. Y'all doing okay? I don't know if I am or not, to just be real honest with you, It's been a weird session. At any rate, hey, my name is Ryan. If you're a guest today, thank you so much for being here with us this holiday season. Here's the deal, though. I like to say this right off the bat. I am a white, cisgendered, heterosexual man who has just got all the privilege in the world. And not everybody has those same privileges. And as a follower of Jesus, I believe that naming those privileges and leveraging them for others is the start of a life really committed to the peacemaking path of Jesus, or what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven. And Philippians chapter 2, one of these little letters in the New Testament, tells us that even though Jesus had all the privileges of divinity, he set aside all those privileges and took on the form of a servant. And that's the path we're trying to walk here. So whoever you are, however you've come into this space, whether you are certain of things, whether you're skeptical, filled with hope, or maybe you're hurting and this is your last stop in church world. I'm glad you're here. We are glad you're here. And I hope that you will join us as we walk this peacemaking path of Jesus together and we reimagine what does it really mean to follow this person of Jesus in our day, in our time. So thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for making that possible. Those of you that are here every week, our membership, our regular attenders, you're giving so generously, especially in a very interesting season for the life of our church. So how many of y'all love a good story? Raise your hand up nice and high. Anybody love a good story? I love stories. I love movies. There's something powerful about a story that takes a hold of our hearts, that just doesn't let us go, right? The Christmas Story. Thank you very much. My hat is Christmas Story as well. If you want to get a closer look, there's some pins. Somebody got me this, so it's great. Some of the stories that we experience in our lives, they stay with us. Some of our own stories, they really stay with us. Like you can draw on your own memories and those things from your past. And they stay with us not because they're perfect. How many of you know your stories aren't perfect? Right? You didn't write the story of what you thought it was going to be like when whatever happened. Like whenever you made a decision, you said, this is what I envision, this is what I think it's going to look like. Oftentimes those stories turn out differently. And we hold on to those stories and they hold us, and it's because in some sense, a really great movie or an experience in our memories, they name something that is true about our lives. They name something that's true. A few years ago, a pop song came out, caught the idea of the story of our lives in the most simplest way. How many One Direction fans do we have? Listening, tuning in online, watching, right? Now you're calling it up on your Spotify list, right? One Direction, now 5 Directions, I think. I'm not sure. But they sang that song, The Story of My Life. How many have ever heard that song? Anybody want to sing it for us? Oh, I see those hands. Go ahead. Trapped you into that one. No. So the story of my life, right? The song says, the story of my life, I'd take her home. I'll drive all night to keep her warm. And the story of my life, I'll give her hope. I'll spend her love until she's broke inside. Right? It's this idea, right, that the story of this person's life is this love that they have, that they share. And it develops identity and it becomes a part of who they are. And it's not a Christmas song, I know. And it's not maybe some people would say, oh, it's not a religious song. But it does understand something very deeply human about us, that our lives are made of stories, moments that we replay, chapters sometimes we wish we could rewrite. And these memories, right, they still shape who we are, for better or for worse. And some of those stories, they just grab a hold of our hearts. They just refuse to let us go. If you've been around here for any length of time, or if for some strange reason you plan on sticking around for some length of time, you will hear me oftentimes talk about 3 stories that shape us. 3 domes of meaning, and they all overlap. And if you're in your head, you can think of like 3 domes that are kind of concentric. How many of y'all heard me talk about this before? Some of you got a little excited. You like the 3 domes of meaning. Some of you are like, this is a good opportunity to go to the restroom, refill my cup of coffee, whatever it might be. But that first dome of meaning is what we call my story. Now, my story is the collection of moments that make you, you. They make me, me. It's just me. I'm the center of it. And sometimes it's my favorite story. Sometimes it's your favorite story, my story, right? It's about the people who loved you, the things that shaped you. It's about the people who maybe hurt you. It's about the choices that you made or that I made, or maybe it's about the choices that were made for me. That One Direction song says, the story of my life is written in these walls. They're the stories that I can't explain. That's really my story. And some of the things that make us who we are, those experiences, are joyful. And some are painful. Some still live in our bodies even when we don't have the words to describe them. And here's the thing, my story, that first level, it matters. It's important. It's formative. It establishes a sense of identity and beingness that's important in our lives. But here's the thing, it's not the only story. And how many of you have met a person who thinks that their story is the only story? We diagnose that as narcissism, right? So you all know somewhere inside of you that your story, my story, it's not the only story. And so we come into our second dome of meaning in this life, a second story, and that's our story. Our story. Now, our story are the stories that we share with certain groups, right? So I share my story with a group of people who maybe grew up in a certain type of religious tradition. That's our story. And sometimes we get together and we celebrate that, and sometimes we commiserate about that, and we watch documentaries about the 90s and the crazy things that we did in youth group, okay? That's like our story. And then all of us are part of an our story, like that Christian tradition. That's our story, right? And so some of you are part of a family. That's an our story. A church, our story. We're part of a nation. That's our story. We're even part of the world, the human race. There's a story about the human race. And so all of these stories, we can have a lot of our stories, okay? And though our stories encompass things like traditions that are passed down to us, like wounds that we inherit from others, systems that we didn't create but we kind of still live inside and might be subject to. They're the hopes that we carry together as one. And our story can be healing. Like our story can produce a sense of joy, and it can be therapeutic, but it can also bring harm. I think right now, if we're honest, many of us, this shared story of what it means to be in this country in this moment is a difficult one. It feels like kind of loud and fractured, and there's a restlessness to it. And so our story needs something bigger. If my story needs more and we need our stories, then our stories need something bigger, because when our story becomes the story, violence happens. When we suspect and we believe that our story is the story, right? Then we end up with wars and violence and hatred and othering. And so we need even a bigger dome of meaning. We need a dome of meaning. We need a story that can hold all the stories together. And we would call that the story. So we have my story, our story, and the story. And the story holds everything together, holds all the other stories, gives meaning to all the others. Right? It's the story that we locate everything inside of. It's a story that tells us what is ultimately true about existence. It's the story. It's not just my story, it's not our story, it's the story. We all inhabit, exhibit, and we might call this God's story. And for people of faith, people of our tradition, Advent reminds us that love is the story, that love has always been telling this story. And it's a story of creation, a story of liberation. It's a story of justice. It's a story of love refusing to let go. And here's the thing, healthy spirituality, healthy participation in an our group, in that second dome of meaning, should always point us to the story. Religion becomes unhealthy when my religion becomes the story. When my religion is the only way, when I have to tell everybody else, when my way of being in the world becomes the only way that is right, then that produces violence. But the story is bigger, and it encompasses all of those things. And here's the thing. The Christmas story, the one that we celebrate this time of year, it's not meant to replace our stories. It's meant to hold them. It doesn't erase my story, my personal story. It doesn't ignore those things. It speaks into them. And here's the promise that Advent makes. We've been talking about the Christmas promise, these promises of Christmas. And the promise of Advent is that when our personal stories, whether it's my story or our story, right, those collective ways of being, when those stories feel overwhelming, Advent tells us this: God's story is still being written. God's story is still being told. Through every age, the story has been told of angels who sang, of hearts that dared to believe, of peace that was proclaimed in a world that was still trembling with unrest. This is not a story that pretends everything is okay. How many of y'all love it when people just pretend everything is okay? I'm going to tell you right now, everything is not okay in my world. Far from it. I feel like every day another not okay shows up. I'm like, can I please get an okay? I need an okay in this world, in this life. Some please. It's not a story that ignores that or pretends it's not, but it's a story that speaks peace into that chaos. It speaks this idea that even though everything's not okay, we'll be okay. Somehow, some way. And so today, as we gather in a space like this, we bring all three stories with us. You bring your story, I bring my story with its beauty and its brokenness. We bring our story, the story of what it means to be a participant of a Christian tradition, the story of what it means to be a person who has a family, a person who is a parent. Whatever those stories are, we bring that with us with all the hope that they give us and all the tensions that they produce. And then we also come and we recognize that there is the story, God's story, and that story is still unfolding. And Advent invites us to believe this, that the promise of the story is peace. Luke chapter 2, verse 8 through 14, right? There were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, it says, and they were keeping watch over their flocks at night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone all around them, and they were terrified. How many of y'all know that sometimes you can feel like you are doing exactly what you believe divine love calls you to do, but you can be terrified? And they're right in the middle of it, and they're terrified. And the angel says to them, don't be afraid. I bring you good news which will cause great joy for all people. Not just some people, not just Christian people, not just Jewish people, not just heterosexual people, not just cisgender people, but great joy for all people. That's what I'm bringing you. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. And I want you to come back out on Christmas Eve because I'm going to talk about that little phrase, a Savior. What does that even mean? But you got to come for Christmas Eve for that one. It says, he's the Messiah, the Lord. And this will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger. By the way, I hadn't seen, how many of y'all seen the movie Four Christmases? I hadn't seen that movie, so you should go back and watch Four Christmases. We watched it last night, and I was dying. I just do not remember the scene where, she's supposed to wrap the baby in swaddling cloth, and she can't, find the swaddling cloth because Vince Vaughn's character has a swaddling. He's, doing this huge performance at this church. It's hilarious. You have to go back and watch it. It's a little indicting, too, but it's really funny, okay? But the angels say, you'll find a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And then suddenly there's this great company of the heavenly host appearing with the angel. And they're praising God. And this is what they say: glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth, peace to those on whom God's favor rests. Now, the peace that the angels proclaimed, this peace that is the promise of Christmas, it's not cheap. It's not a denial of pain or violence. It doesn't just gloss over those things. It's not silence in the face of injustice, but it's a peace that is strong enough to hold every story that we carry, every chapter. And that matters. It matters because the world has never been calm when this story is told. Never. Through every age, every season, this story has been told of angels singing, of the shepherds trembling, a child born into poverty, vulnerability, political violence. And let's be honest, the first Christmas, it didn't happen in a moment of global peace, something extraordinary for the first time ever. No. The first Christmas, the story we celebrate, the story tells us that it happened under Roman occupation. It happened in a world that was shaped by fear, overtaxation, surveillance, and power. And that matters. It matters that we recognize that the story comes to us in every epoch of life, in every season, in every generation. It comes to us in a time of intense pain. The world is full of it. Sometimes we imagine that peace is what comes after everything calms down. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if peace was actually when everything settles down? But here's the thing, that's not like the peace of our tradition. The Christmas story tells us that peace, the peace that goes beyond all of our understanding, is different than that. It's not the absence of conflict. Peace is the presence of God within it. The peace that is promised to us is not something that comes once we complete all the hard tasks. No, it's that presence that's with us in the midst of the difficulty. See, the angels didn't come and start singing in the story because the world is finally safe. Everything's all good, let's sing. No, they sing because the divine is entering the story in a new way. That's what the story's about. And so when we hear the word peace, too often we think and we imagine things like quiet and the perfect baby who didn't poop itself, who didn't throw up, who didn't scream. But we think of a silent night. It's the biggest joke ever. It wasn't a silent night. It was screaming in childbirth. There's babies screaming. How come you didn't get the reservation, Joseph? Come on. Silent night. Oh, we live in such a world of like rose-colored glasses. We think quiet and calm and resolution and stillness, and I would love those things, but my life has taught me those just never come. But maybe on vacation, like one day out of the week, on vacation, I don't know. And those things are beautiful, stillness and calmness and quiet. I love it. But the peace that's promised in the Christmas story is deeper than our emotions. In Scripture, peace, the promise of peace, is wholeness. It's repair. It's harmony. It's right relationship. It's not fragile and it's not fleeting. And it doesn't depend on our circumstances behaving themselves. Because how many of y'all know our circumstances don't behave themselves? And this is why Jesus would later, we'd get this beautiful story of him standing in the middle of a storm and saying, peace, be still. Peace, be still. Now, did the storm instantly disappear? Of course not. But fear no longer holds that final word in it. Takes a little while for the rain to stop. Takes a little while for the wind to calm down. Takes a little while for the waves to stop crashing. But the fear can come and the fear can go. And so Advent peace, the promise, it doesn't deny all the noise in our lives that we carry around and all the pain and all the hopes. It meets us inside of it. And so today we come into this space, we tune in online, we participate as people who still have some things to figure out in life. We don't come here with everything figured out. We all come carrying our anxious thoughts and our unfinished grief, the strained relationships, exhaustion with our political system, exhaustion with the financial pressures you might be facing, memories that stir up during this season. And so some of us, we long for peace in our homes. Some of us long for peace in our bodies, a wholeness. Some of us long for peace in our cities, in our nation, in our world. And the promise of Advent says, you don't have to leave any of that at the door. To experience hope, to experience the peace of the Christmas story, you don't have to pretend none of those things exist. The Christmas story was never meant for people who have it all together. It's not. It was told to people who were afraid, who were outsiders, to people on the margins, to people whose lives were unsettled. See, peace doesn't require silence before it arrives. Peace creates space where silence can finally be possible. And I think that this story, what's powerful is that it can steady us. I think we come back to it every year because we need to be steadied. We need to be reminded that when things feel unstable, we can reach for something that holds us. And the story can do that. Why? Because the story is not fragile. God's story is not fragile. Empires are fragile. They rise and they fall. Certainty in our lives, it will erode. Systems will fail. But the story will continue to be told, not because it's nostalgic, but because it's necessary. It's necessary for us to be reminded that the promise of peace is not that we're never going to be shaken. The promise of peace is that we won't be shaken alone. That we don't walk through our circumstances alone. Earlier in our call to worship, in between those two songs, did you notice where peace was named and where it was longed for in that call to worship? In our homes and in our cities and in our hearts. See, peace is never just about one space, but it's about all these things. It's very holistic, right? And we long for peace personally in our own hearts to calm like what's frantic in us. We long for peace in our homes, our relationships. We long for love to mend what is fractured between us. And we long for it in our communities, for a love that will challenge systems that thrive on fear and division and othering. And so the angels announce peace on earth, not as a sentimental wish, but as a declaration that God is rewriting the story of power and inviting us into that story. And God is rewriting that story of power not through domination, but through love. It's not through force, but it's through presence. Not from a throne, but from a manger. So in just a moment, we're going to light these candles that are to the sides. These are the candles of peace. They're a small little flame powered by a battery so we don't burn the place down while we're trying to sell it. And you're invited to, as we sing this next song in just a moment, to stand and make your way. It's just kind of an embodied way of participating in this experience, to go over and light one of those candles. And here's the thing, that little candle, it's easily overlooked. It's just a little candle. Like, it's not going to change the whole shape of the room, but it is stubbornly bright. It's not going to chase away all the darkness, but it will change the feel. And that's how peace works. It's not flashy, but it's faithful. It doesn't fix every problem. Here's what I can promise you right now. You are going to stand up here in a few minutes and you're going to walk out of this place, and all the same problems that you came in here with are still going to be there. Maybe even some new ones for you. I woke up this morning, checked my email, new problems. Love it. No idea how to solve. And guess what? I'm going to finish this talk, and I'm going to walk out of here, and those problems are still going to linger, and I'm going to have to try and be a participant with people who are solving problems and trying to figure things out. I'll go light my little candle. It's not going to change those circumstances, but it's an opportunity for me to remind myself that peace is faithful, that love is faithful, that what we call God is faithful. And the story keeps moving forward. That light keeps showing up. The promise keeps holding. Even when we don't feel peaceful, that light still can burn. And so, we're going to prepare our hearts to go light these candles. But we got to remember, the Advent doesn't rush us into resolutions, to rush us into problem solving. It teaches us to wait expectantly. That's Advent. That it is always darkest before the dawn. And see, peace isn't the reward at the end of the journey. Peace is the companion along the way. Sometimes we think, if I just get through this, I think of it, if we can just get through the next, but then there'll be peace. There won't, there'll be another. But peace can be my companion in all of it. And so love doesn't promise that the night's instantly going to end. Love just promises that the night will not overcome the light. And that can change everything. And so I want to invite you in the next few moments, don't strive for peace. Don't sit there and pray for it. Give me peace, 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 peace. I'm going to go light my candle. I'm going to get me some peace. Peace, I need peace, I need peace. I guess I'm thinking about it. I need peace. Don't strive for it. Just receive it. Just receive it. Knowing that your circumstances aren't going to change overnight. That it might get worse. It might not even ever get better. But I love you enough to tell you that. But I do know this, that even when it doesn't get better, there can still be peace. And that's the beauty of the story. When our stories tell us there is no way out, that this is the end. There still is the story that says there's peace even in that moment. Divine love is still writing peace into our world, still writing peace into our messes and into our fears and into our unfinished lives. And maybe peace just begins by letting ourselves rest inside of the story once again. So will you do me a favor, just for a moment? I know everybody gets weird. We're going to close our eyes. You know, we can't handle like 2 minutes of silence. I hope that tells you there's something wrong with us. Like seriously, if I were to say, hey, we're going to close our eyes and just sit in silence for 2 minutes, there'd be a massive revolt in here. You wouldn't know what to do with yourselves. We have a problem. Like we'll sit and listen to like Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 4 minutes and love it, but 2 minutes of silence and we're freaking out. Maybe that contributes to why we don't know how to receive peace. We don't know how to just even be silent in the midst of the storms. So we're going to help you. We're going to have some soft music. Won't be fully silent. But I just want to encourage you to close your eyes for a moment. Just before we get up and move and sing and light the candles, just close your eyes. Just for a second. I want you to, in your mind, think of the thing that has you most anxious right now. I want you to hold that. Hold what has you most anxious. Don't try and solve it. Don't try and analyze it. Don't try and hope for anything other than just hold what it is. All the uncertainty of it. And as you hold that place of anxiety, I want you to hear that divine whisper that the story is peace on earth. The peace can enter into that space, that unwritten story, that unwritten chapter. And as you light a candle here in a moment, bring the outcome to the candle. Light that candle in honor of that anxiety and as an invitation for peace to enter it and to be your companion as you walk through it. Will you stand with me? We're going to sing this song. We're going to light the candles. We'll come back. One final announcement, your blessing, get you out of here to go crazy in this final week.